Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'm Steve Molloy, and welcome to Aging in Strong. Had a little technical difficulty there. Um, had a little technical difficulty with the computer. I'm not real good with it, so I apologize for the intro. This isn't on deck. This is Aging in Strong. But we're going to drive on. We're going to drive on, and I'm hoping you all enjoyed the premiere episode 1 of Aging and Strong last week, Friday, and we talked about the why get strong, why do we get strong as we age. And I also wanted to go back a little bit and kind of refresh everyone's um, memory on everything that we went over. I'm not going to get too in depth, but there's a few things I wanted to make mention of that I think are important. And this Aging and Strong podcast, right? It's for 55 plus or older. Let's just say older people, but primarily I'm focusing on 55 plus. Reason why I want to focus on 55 plus is because number one, when I started the program and trying to really get strong, was at 58. I was 58 years old, and I wanted to get strong. And when you get at that age in your 50s, 50, 55 plus, you start thinking about your health more, your eating habits, um, things of that nature, right? You start having grandkids, things, and you kind of contemplate and you're thinking, wow, I'm not really feeling too hot. I don't have the stamina, I don't have the strength in some areas. I need to improve. I need to eat better. I need to get stronger. I need to stay fit. I need, for my grandkids and for myself, right? And your family, because you're responsible for your family, right? You don't want to be the weakling of the family, right? You want to be able to help your wife. You want to be able to help, your grandkids. You want to be able to get up off the toilet. I know that sounds funny, but when you're 65, 70, 75, maybe you're a little overweight, maybe you're not, and you don't have the strength to get up off the toilet, that's a big thing. That's a sign of you're losing your independence. I didn't want to be that guy. Or if you're female, that woman, right? That lady. So the point, excuse me, is I'm trying to make is not only is Aging in Strong focused on the 55 plus community, yes, it is, but this is also good for young folks, right? Whether you're male or female, this applies across the board. Okay, we're all human beings. Okay, there, of course, women are different, men are different in a lot of respects, physically, right, and mentally. I got that, but this getting strong and lifting weights, it applies to women and men as well. So the difference is you have to make modifications, right? For some of the for women, especially older women. So and sometimes in some cases, older women are better in some cases in certain exercises and things. Sometimes they're able to do more reps in certain exercises, more sets, right? So there is some differences, but we make modifications for that, right? Even for injuries and things like that. There's ways of working around those injuries or and things. Arthritis is ways of working around it. The point is, I'd rather be strong and maybe in a little pain and maybe dealing with some arthritis or other injury issues than be weak in dealing with those issues. Right? So I just wanted to make that mention. All right. And then I also wanted to play this small little clip. It's a video clip here. It's something we touched base on. Um, if I can find it here now, it's something we touched base on last week when we were talking. We were talking about muscle growth. And there was a point in the conversation when I was talking about muscle growth where I mentioned that you have to challenge your muscle, right? If you stay at 100 pounds, whether it's the press, bench press, a squat, whatever that exercise is, if you stay at that specific poundage, you're never going to make any progress. You have to progressively overload. That's the only way you get strong. I mean, you've seen folks, if you've ever been to the gym, or folks, they go to the gym, right? And they're doing the same exercises every week, day in and day out, right? Whether it's 2-3 days a week. And they're using the same weight, and then they're wondering why they're not making any progress, whether it be muscle growth or whether it be strength. And that's the reason. The reason is they're not challenging their muscles. It's not easy, folks. It's not easy. The program is easy, but when you're actually doing the exercises and building your muscles and challenging them and to make them grow and to get stronger, sometimes it gets harder. It gets hard. What we call grind. You have to grind sometimes as the weight gets heavier. But it's all relative. If you start off at 100 pounds on a specific weight, whatever exercise that is, and you add 5 pounds every workout, right? Once you reach 150, 200 pounds, sure, it's going to be heavier, but it's going to feel the same as if you were lifting 100 pounds because you've progressed. You've gotten stronger. Does that make sense? So let me see if I can find that video clip that I had here, and I'm going to play it if I can find it. Okay, let's see where it's at. I wish I can find it here. Let's see. Give me a second, and I'll look for it here. It wasn't here. Oh, man, let's see. It was a really good clip. I hope I can find it. Let's see. That's not it. That's not it. Okay, video clips. Huh. Okay, I think I found it. Here we go. All right. So just listen to this video clip. It's basically what I was talking about last week about muscle growth. And this clip is by a guy named Dorian Yates. For those of you old heads, right? Old school guys back in the 60s and 70s that were bodybuilding and and all that, because that's really basically all it was back in those days, right? 70s was, we didn't hear much about powerlifting, maybe Olympic lifting because you saw it in the Olympics and stuff like that. But strength training was not, a big thing, right? Bodybuilding was, but it's kind of the same principles, right? But different. Powerlifting and strength training, Olympic training, different methods of getting, to where you want to get in order to progress in those sports, right? Powerlifting, right? Different. You have to, the same principles are there, but you have to lift. There's different methods of getting there, right? I guess that basically is, I hope I'm saying that right, methods. But anyway, here's the clip. Please listen to it. And let's see if I can get it on here.
3 days a week I was training initially when I first started training because I was working a job as well. Right. And I couldn't recover training more often than that. That's what the feedback showed me. So I listened to it. Later on, training for Mr. Olympia, I was training 4 days a week and maximum 1 hour in the gym. Wow. But people struggle with that because they don't understand the key. The key to stimulating muscle growth is the intensity of the exercise and the fact that you're progressively overloading, and you're giving your body something that it's not used to, and it needs to react. Muscle growth is just a reaction to a stress that the body's trying to protect itself from. So you're giving it stress. You're making it lift these weights and work to out of its normal capacity. So now it's going to try to build itself a little bigger and a little stronger to cope with that stress in the future. So that's very basically the process.
There you go. Dorian Yates is a legend in the bodybuilding community. He's a legend, and he kind of as far as bodybuilding goes, he didn't do a lot of different exercises, and he stresses that you shouldn't be doing you don't need to do 10 exercises for your biceps, right? Now you might, as you progress and you get stronger, you might add a little variety. You might do a barbell curl, maybe a dumbbell curl, and you alternate between those two maybe every 4 to 6 weeks or whatever. But that's the key, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to get stronger, whether it's bodybuilding, powerlifting, Olympic lifting, you have to progressively overload, okay? Because you got to put that stress, as he said, right, on those muscles. You have to challenge them. You have to challenge them. So also, I can relate to this video to a degree, because when I started this program of trying to get, gain strength, get stronger and all that kind of stuff, I was working 10 to 12 hours a day. 10 to 12 hours a day I was working, 5, sometimes 6 days a week. And I would come home and I was doing for 3 days a week, right? At night when I'd get home, because I got home late at night, 9, 10 o'clock at night, 3 days a week, I was doing my strength training. That's rough. That's rough. Did I feel like doing it at times? No, I did not. It was tough. And I made a lot of mistakes. And this is the reason why I'm also doing Aging and Strong, because I don't want you to make the same mistakes as I did. Okay? For instance, I was tired, worked hard all day, and I was trying to do 3 sets of 5. Because generally, most of these exercises, right, no matter what age you are, young or old, male or female, you're going to do 3 sets of 5 across. Sets are every time you lift a weight for 5 reps, they call it, right? You're doing 5 reps. Once you finish that one set of 5 reps across, you would stop, you would rest. In the beginning, you're probably going to rest 3 to 5 minutes. Later on, as the weight gets heavier, you're not going to be able to go back at it after 3 minutes. So you do your rests, right? In the beginning, it's 3 to 5. Later on, it's probably, 6 to 8. But once you go through your rest, then you're going to do another set. That's 1 set. So that's 2 sets you've done so far once you finish that second set, right? Then you do a 3rd set. Rest in between. Do your 3rd set, 5 across. 5 is the key. 5 is the number of reps. You want to lift that weight 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The science says between 4 and 6 reps for strength. 5 is somewhere in the middle there, and that works perfectly. It worked perfectly for me, and it's going to work good for you, okay? Now, the only exercise you're not going to do 3 sets in the beginning now and 5 reps, you're going to do 5 reps, but you're going to do 1 set, and that's the deadlift. Why? Because the deadlift is very, very hard on your body. It beats your body down, on your central nervous system, basically, right? You're lifting, you're pulling from the floor, right? You're pulling from the floor. You're using your legs, using your core, you're using your chest, your shoulders, your back muscles, your arms. So it takes a toll on your body, right? That's why you only do 1 rep, 5 sets across. Okay? Um you will do that 3 times a week starting out. Now, here's where I made the mistake. As I said, I was working 10 to 12 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week. And I was trying to do 3 sets, 5 reps across, but I was already exhausted. Number 1, that can cause injury because you're tired and you're lifting heavy weights. In the beginning, not so much, but after a while, once you start progressing up, it's getting heavier. The stress is a lot harder on your body after that, right? That's why you need to rest adequately once you finish your day's workout. You don't want to work out again for another 1 or 2 days, right? 48 hours to 72 hours is the recommendation. So your body can repair, right? Because you're not growing muscle when you're lifting, right? Your muscle's not getting stronger and it's not growing while you're lifting. You're giving that muscle the stimulus to grow, but the way that it's growing is by your proper nutrition and sleep and proper rest, right? Active rest, preferably. That's when you start growing. I made the mistake of trying to do 3 days a week, 3 sets, and it was killing me because I was already exhausted and tired. And it was killing me. It beat me down. My muscles were sore. The next morning I felt real lethargic and everything because I was tired from working and tired from putting that stress on my muscles. So that was the first mistake. What I should have done, right? And what I recommend, especially for older folks, right? 50 plus, I would even say 50 plus, right? Is go ahead and start off with, 3 sets, 5 across if you can, right? On these specific exercises, and I'll go over them again. Get your proper rest between sets, especially if you're working, right? Now, if you're retired or whatnot, you could probably get away with doing your 3 sets and maybe resting a little less time in the beginning. But if you're working like I was and you're 50 plus, and you will know, you be the judge. Nobody can tell you how you're feeling. Okay. The key is we want to work smartly, safely. Okay. That was my mistake. I shouldn't have. I could have gotten hurt, and I did hurt my back once or twice. And that kind of put me back of my training, behind my training because of that. Okay. That's not what we want to do. We want to work smartly and safely. Okay. And if we have to modify, don't be afraid to modify. Right. So I didn't. So my time in the program of trying to get as strong as I can efficiently and as quick as I could, I was beat up and I had to adjust my program after about 2 months. 2 months. Now, if I would have, so I didn't get as strong as I could have potentially. So what I'm saying is if you have to modify, do it. Okay, do it. because number one, it's you're going to have more of um, a life. Well, that's not the right word, but you're going to be able to go a lot longer in the program, maybe 4, 5, 6 months as opposed to 2 months. I left a lot of on the table as far as my strength went, right? So I messed up there. Okay, that's why I'm sharing this with you. I'm not perfect. I'm not a coach or anything like that. I'm just an average Joe, right? That was trying to get strong, and I tried to be Mr. Macho. My ego got the best of me, and even though I was tired and everything, work 10, 12 hours a day. I was trying to be 20 years old again. And I'm not 20 years old. I'm not 30 years old. I wasn't 40 years old. I wasn't even 50 years old. I was 58. So don't make that same mistake I did. Don't make that same mistake I did. Okay. When hopefully you all are trying to get on some type of program to get strong. There's a bunch of them out there. Okay. But the best one that I did the research on and I came across was Starting Strength program. And that it's called Starting Strength. And I have a book here. And I'm sorry that I didn't buy this book sooner. Okay? I bought this book 3 or 4 or 5 years. No, it was around 4 years after I started this program. And there's something else I want to share with you too before I show you this book. But I also started to get back into boxing, and I was 59 at that time when I started to get back into boxing. So that kind of stagnated my progression as well. Okay, not only was I working a lot, but I also started boxing again, right? And I had gotten another job at the time that I started boxing again. Actually, it was, yeah, around 59. And so I wasn't working the 10 or 12 hours shifts, but I was working 8 to 10, right? Then I was coming home, getting dressed, taking a shower, eating maybe a yogurt with some fruit or something just to keep my energy and carbs, right? And a little protein. And I was going straight to boxing 3 to 4 days a week. 3 to 4 days a week, I was boxing an hour a day. Okay. I was sparring. I was doing my drills. I was doing everything that's required to box, right? To train. And I even had plans to go into Masters boxing. They do have Masters USA boxing where you can actually fight folks, in your age bracket and weight class, just like WBA and all that kind of stuff, right? World Boxing Association, but it was called Masters Boxing USA. Okay, so I was training to actually go in the ring and fight another individual competitively, not sparring, but actually fighting in the ring competitively. So that slowed my progression down as well as far as getting stronger. Although I was doing all the drills and everything, what's required for boxing, I kind of stalled at I wasn't making any progress at all. I wasn't going up in weight and getting stronger. I was strong because even though I had to kind of modify the program after 2 months, I still got pretty strong at that time. But my goal was, I had certain numbers in my head that I wanted to reach, and I hadn't reached them, and I probably could have reached them a lot sooner if I would have, been smart about my training. But anyway, so the book I'm about to show you here, It's called Barbell Prescription. Barbell Prescription. There it is. All right. Strength training for life after 40. For life after 40. Very good book. I've had it for a few years now. I've read it, and it's a good reference book to go back and look at it from time to time if you're struggling with your program. This has all kinds of templates and programs, just examples. Okay. It gives you examples. Everybody's different as an individual, but the basic principles, the core principles are in here in this book. Also, in this book, it tells you the why you should work out, after 40, even, right? I say 50 plus, 55 plus, but it's good for anybody after 40. And to be honest with you, be even younger. The core principles are in here. It tells you the how and the why in the how to. And you can go on Amazon and probably get this book. And I'm not going to get into all this book, everything that's in here. It has pictures, it has diagrams, it explains the physiology, the everything about the human body, and then it even goes into the weight, the barbells and things, how to actually do them properly, the form and all that stuff. And the book was written by Dr. Jonathan M. Sullivan and Andy Baker. Now, this book, okay, here it is. Barbell Prescription, Strength Training for Life After 40. You probably get it on Amazon. Okay. And the author of the book, Andy Baker, he lives here in the Houston area. He has a strength and conditioning gym here. He's probably been in the business for about 20 years now. He's trained thousands of people, young, old, and even some athletes. And I reached out to him about a week ago, and he finally got back with me today. So I'm excited. I'm going to have him on the show. He said he would do it. And he's actually going to talk about this book and what's inside this book. Okay? And then some. So it's going to be a great program. I'll let you all know when he comes on. We're going to interview him via StreamYard, right? And it should be a great interview. And if you all come join in the chat, you can ask him all kinds of questions, anything you want, and he's going to give you the answer. He's been doing this for a long, long time, and he's a military veteran like I am too. So I like that as well. So I'm so excited for Andy Baker to be on here, and hopefully it'll be in the next week or two. We'll see. So I hope that you all will join in that show, and you will definitely get some great information there as well. So what we talked about last week, right, was the why. Why do we want to get strong? And there's 2 or 3 reasons why. One of them was for to stimulate muscle growth, barbell exercise. Oh, no, my bad. Where am I? Let me see if I can find where I am here. And we'll go back and talk about this. See if it's here. Oh, let's see. Yeah, okay. So the reason why is because especially for us older adults, right? 50, 55 plus, 60, 70, 80, One of the reasons why is we want to stimulate muscle growth, right? To get stronger. And what that does is it promotes significant muscle protein synthesis and growth, right? Because our body doesn't process the protein that we eat efficiently as we age. So, number one, we need to eat more protein, right? But also, we need to stimulate those muscles, right? The muscle growth, so we can get that working efficiently, right? That system, digestive system, all that stuff that's, and I'm not a doctor, it's required for us to um to digest that protein, or you know for that protein synthesis and growth, right? um and we talked about the progressive overload, right? Oh, and what that is going to do is it's vital for sustaining our strength or gaining strength, and improve, which is very important. This one is improve bone density. All right, we talked about that, right? Osteoporosis and things like that, where our bones start to get brittle, where with the proper nutrition, right, you're eating a well balanced diet, most little higher in protein than you're probably used to as we age, or even when we're younger, right? We can get away with it more when we're younger, but as we age, we've got to eat more of that protein. We just have to. Animal protein is the best. If you're a vegetarian, can you get bigger and stronger? Yes, but you have to really get down to the minute detail when you're a vegetarian in order to get that protein up, right? You have to eat a lot more, as opposed to a 4 to 6 ounce steak. You might have to eat 3 or 4 cups of beans. That's a lot of beans. You'd be full of beans, right? So yeah, so improve bone density, right? So when you're putting that stress in the weight bearing exercises that you're doing with barbells on your bones, right? Your bones are going to get stronger. Okay, it's going to repair those bones to a degree. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. Okay, it's not going to happen overnight. It depending on an individual and how far you are into the osteoporosis, because everybody gets a little osteoporosis as you get older, right? Depending on how your age and how far you are along in that, it might take you a little while to get back, your bones back to where they need to be. Okay. So those are the most important right there. Right. So we also talked about the effective exercises that are best to start off with. And I told you compound exercises, right? Multi-joint exercises. Those were squats, deadlifts, bench press, barbell rows, and overhead press. That's it to get stronger in the beginning. And eventually, as you progress along in the program, right, getting stronger by doing these exercises, hopefully you're doing them right and you're following the program and adjusting it as needed, or modifying it as needed, right, based on your situation, right? Eventually the deadlift is going to really start getting heavy, right? It's going to get heavy, and you're going to probably be grinding, right? What I mean by grinding is, you're not going to be able to just lift it like this. You're going to have to kind of grind it to get it up there, right? And you have to learn how to grind, okay? Because there are many times where I was doing the deadlift and it didn't want to come off the floor because I quit. Now, grant you, I was tired and exhausted from working 10 or 12 hours a day, right? But the point is, if it doesn't come off the floor, is number one, you either quit on it too soon, because there are many times I'll do the deadlifts here and it doesn't want to feel like it's going to come off the floor. But if I just continue to use proper form and pull, and push, I'd rather say push off the floor, right? Even though you're pulling, you want to push off the floor because you're using your hips more in this exercise, right? To pull off the floor, right? It comes up. It comes up. Now, there's just sometimes where the weight might just be too heavy, right? And you probably load it up. You let the ego get the best of it and you loaded up the plates and it's probably just too much. Okay, I got it. I understand that. But usually the fix is, if it doesn't come off the floor, continue to push, pull right up. And it's going to feel like it's not going to move, right? But it is. And if it doesn't, guess what? The deadlift is a lot safer exercise than, say, if that happened, you got stuck with a bench press or the squat, right? Deadlift, you can just let it go, right? You're fine. Bench press, you're under the bar, even though you have safety pins, it's scary if you can't get it up off your chest. That's why it's very, very important to have safety pins on your rack like I have back there. Okay? Because if it does, it's happened to me, I've gotten stuck a couple times. I've had to drop the weight down onto the pins, right? Because you have the pins where the weight is placed on, right? And then at the bottom of those, you have some other pins sticking out. They call them pins sticking out. So if you do get stuck, you can let it down and then slide your way out of the bench. Okay? That's if you're alone and you're working in your garage. Are working out in your garage like me. If you're not alone and working out in your garage and you don't have a spotter, or if you are working alone in your garage and you have a spotter, that's good. But if you don't, if you're at a gym or one of these, commercial gyms or whatnot, you can always ask somebody to come over or help you spot or something like that, right? It's a little safer. But so that's what I recommend there. Definitely get those pins. Yeah. So once those exercises like the deadlift are getting heavy and it's just a lot of stress on your body, your central nervous system, then I would probably add in some chins, right? Some chin ups. Or if you can't do chin ups, then I would suggest, if you're working out of your garage, right, your garage gym, then I would suggest you do some barbell rows. Okay. Barbell rows are safe. So I would suggest you do that. And a lot of people in their 50s or even younger sometimes can't do one pull up or one chin up. So if you're in a commercial gym and you're working out, right, they have what they call lat machines. You can work on those lat machines, right? Get the weight up, maybe do 8 or 10 reps of a weight that you can handle, right? It's not too bad. You're not going to failure, but you're leaving 1 or 2 in the tank. After you do that for a month or 2 or less, then you might be able to do a pull-up. Now, those are they complement the pull-up or the chin-up. So you could do that. But anyway, so you would add, another exercise in there, which would be the chin or the barbell row. And if you can do chins, you can rotate out the barbell row and the chin every other workout or something like that, right? Just so you don't have this, the deadlift's hard to recover from. So that's when we start what we call a light day, a light workout, right? Barbell row or the chins would be considered a light workout because it's not as much stress on your central nervous system as the deadlift. So that's about it, really. And as I said, you do those 3 sets, 5 across. And if you feel like you're getting beat up and everything, and your body just doesn't feels lethargic, a little sore, whatever, and lack of motivation, you're dragging at work, or if you don't work, you're dragging yourself around the house or whatever, you know what you do? You take off one set. Instead of doing 3 sets, you do 2 sets. Okay? 2 sets, 5 across. 5 reps, 2 sets. Okay? That's what you do. And you do those on every exercise, except, of course, the deadlift, because the deadlift is only 1 set anyway. Okay? And or another thing you could do is instead of dropping that set, right? The 3 sets of 5, what you could do is you could just do 2 days a week as opposed to 3 days a week. And that might work. Train smartly, safely, and efficiently. You don't want to get injured doing this. And the way that you get injured doing this is, number one, ego lifting, overtired or exhausted or overtrained, right? Those are the two. So you want to lift smart. And so those are the mistakes that I made, right? Is I probably should have, instead of working out 3 days a week, I should have started to do 2 days a week instead. But I didn't. I stopped the program completely, and I did something. I lowered my intensity, right? I lowered the load on the bar. I went down like 10, 15, 20 pounds, and I tried to do this again. And guess what? I didn't make the progress as quickly and efficiently and as smartly as I could have. And then when I actually started doing the boxing, right, that really put a damper in my progress. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't, right? If that's what you enjoy, that's what you enjoy. And I don't know what your goals are, but I had numbers in my mind, right? For instance, on the deadlift, I wanted to do at the time I wanted to hit 300. I wanted to do a 200 bench press, and I didn't hit those numbers, right? I don't know what your numbers are. Yours might be 400, 500, 150. I don't know. It's up to you. No, you're not competing against anybody when you're building strength and you're trying to stay fit and strong, especially in your later life. You shouldn't be competing against anybody but yourself. That's it. Who cares what anybody else does? It's, if somebody can lift 400 and you can only lift 200, 200 to you might be a lot stronger than when you started, right? You might have only started out, let's say, on a squat of maybe 90 pounds. Now you're at a 200. Did you get stronger? Yes. Yes. And if you feel that there's a certain individual that I saw him on, I can't remember the name, but anyway, he's a very good trainer and he trains people over 50, right? And he gave specific numbers that I think should be a goal for everybody, right? And again, it depends, how, if you've ever lifted weights before in your life, or if you've lifted and you've just been, you just haven't got as strong, or maybe you've been doing it wrong, right? He said that men over 50, again, this is all age related, right? But men 50 to maybe 55, maybe even to 60, okay? This is average, okay? Again, some folks are, a little more genetically gifted for higher weights, right? Some people are just stronger, right? Some people are hard gainers. I'm a hard gainer, right? I don't gain muscle or strength very fast. Some people gain strength and muscle very, very fast, right? But his numbers were 175 deadlift, 175 pound deadlift is good for a guy, 55 plus. Okay. Now, I'm not saying you should stop there. I'm just giving you numbers, a goal that you could reach. If you're already doing those numbers, that's wonderful, right? 175 bench press, 310-pound deadlift. What was the other one? Oh, squat, 275 pounds. Now, for some of you that never lifted in your life or never hit those numbers before, you can do those numbers in months. You can do them in 6 to 8 months. Okay. Now, some folks can do them in 4 months, in 3 months. Well, not 3 months, but 4 months. Some can do them in 6, some can do them in 8, some can do them in 12. Now, you may stall out, right? You may not able to get stronger on the program doing 3 sets of 5 reps, whether it's, 2 days a week or 3 days a week. You may not be able to reach those numbers in 6 months or 4 months, right? You may stall at those numbers. But there's other programs out there, right? And I'm going to have Andy Baker, when he comes on the show, to get into the book, and he will basically talk about the book, the how, the why, and the why and the how to and all that stuff. And there's specific programs that he recommends that if you do stall, say after 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and you're not able to progress with those weights, because there's going to be a time and point when you're lifting that you are going to stall, and you're going to have to make adjustments. You're going to have to maybe get a little more complicated than this simple program that I've just laid out. Okay. So that's really all I had tonight. I just wanted to kind of go, kind of refresh you all what we talked about a little bit. I wanted to promote that book that you all can actually, get online, on Amazon or whatnot. And it's not very expensive. I think I paid like $20 for it at the time. It might be $26 now. It's very inexpensive, and it has everything that you need to know of why and how, right, to bodybuild for strength, or train for strength, not bodybuild, train for strength. Now, eventually, once you get to a certain point and you get strong, and let's say, again, this is not a bodybuilding program or a powerlifting program. It's strength training to get stronger, right? But eventually, if you want to, incorporate a little sports in your life, like golf, tennis, or whatever, and or you want to bodybuild or powerlift. Now, those are different programs altogether, right? You can branch off into bodybuilding or powerlifting, compete in powerlifting. Even they have masters in powerlifting, folks in their 60s and 70s. Okay. And I'm going to get a guy on here that does compete in powerlifting. He's 71 years old. His name is Mike Birch. He's been around a long time in the powerlifting community, and I'm going to try to get him on for an interview as well. I mean, that might be somewhere you want to go, right? Powerlifting. You might be the competitive type. You may be going after the numbers, right? You may say, man, 250 pounds, 300 pounds. I want to do 400, 500 pounds, right? Different training method to get there. Same with bodybuilding. Same core principles, right? The progressive overload, stressing that muscle, challenging that muscle, giving that muscle the stimulus, right? Different training methods. So I hope you like this podcast tonight. I'll be on again next week at the same time, 7:30 Eastern time, right? On Finn's Talk Sports Extra. I hope you join me again, and hopefully we'll have Andy Baker on here. Remember Andy Baker, co-author of the book Barbell Prescription. Okay? You can get it at Amazon. Check it out. Go online, go to the startingstrength.com website as well. There's a gentleman, Mark Ripito, has been in the business 50 years. He was a former power lifter. He actually kind of brought the strength training biz, right? The strength training industry back to life. Barbell training, basic barbell training. He's very say how he's brash, maybe, I guess. He tells it like it is. He doesn't mess around with bodybuilding, powerlifting, or Olympic lifting, although he's he's delved in the powerlifting industry. He's delved into Olympic. He was a coach, Olympic coach, and he's even done CrossFit. He was involved in CrossFit, right? CrossFit had a lot to do with bringing back the regular barbells to the light again. Now, I'm not saying that's the only way to go. There's, if you want to go with machines or dumbbells and stuff, have at it. I'm just saying, if you want to get really strong, quick, and efficiently, barbells are the way to go until you get that base. You develop that foundation, that base of strength. Okay. Just like the old school bodybuilders did back in the day. They started off doing powerlifting, getting strong, getting big and strong, right? Building that base, that foundation. Then they started doing the isolation exercise and the machines and all that kind of dumbbells and things of that nature. And nutrition plays a big part in that too. Now, the bodybuilders back in the day, they'll tell you they did anabolic steroids. Number one, if you want to be a bodybuilder competitive, you're going to have to do drugs, right? Even though they say natural bodybuilding, I'm sure they're on some stuff. But anyway, if you want to get like those guys in competitive, you've got to do the drugs, right? The anabolic steroids and whatever else they're doing, right? And you've got to be genetically gifted, period. Okay? There's no way you're going to win a competition if you're not genetically gifted already and you're not on the juice. That's just a fact. So anyway, guys, that's it for tonight. Hopefully you folks, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you got getting a lot out of this. I hope you enjoy the program. I appreciate you for joining the show and everything. And if you have any questions or concerns, put it in the comments. I'll check the comments. And if I can answer those questions, I will. If not, I'll find somebody that might be more expert than I am, right? And we'll get those questions answered for you. So until next time, get strong.